like you just to introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about you and the progress to date, because obviously this has involved you immersing yourself quite literally in the aquatic environment.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patricia McParland. So for over 20 years, I have been working in the field of counselling and in coaching. And so I've worked with individual clients on a one-to-one basis. I've worked with groups. I ran a positive living network locally, as you know, where, you know, we regularly brought in different inspirational speakers, but I also spoke regularly on a whole variety of different topics. So I suppose for a long time I've been steeped in this sort of world. I didn't learn to swim until I was in my 40s. I was terrified of water all of my life, like really terrified. And I know you know this because you've been beside me at times when I've been terrified. But I learned to swim, and you know, that was breaststroking for a few lengths up and down a pool. And that led me to helping out when we did a world record attempt out at the lake, and then to County Lake Water Festival, and then to Infinity. And I'm not a particularly strong swimmer. I am persistent and I will persevere, but I just love it.
I asked Patricia to tell us a little bit about how Talk About It began.
Well, a few years ago, Padraig and I spoke about maybe a paper looking at the effects of long-term marathon swims and what happens to people, and that didn't happen because it felt like it would be more just a literature review. And then you came to me and we talked about this idea. And because of, I suppose, my background, in a therapeutic sense, and also the fact of being involved in open water events for many, many years, and then last year going out on a number of swims as an official observer, I think I probably could confidently say I'm fairly uniquely qualified to move into this space that we're talking about now. And I have been really curious from we started this work to look at everything that I can find out about what's happening for open water swimmers. I've been watching the deep end interviews. I've scheduled a number of interviews with swimmers. I've interviewed people who are coaches, who are involved in your end of the work, to find out as much as I can beyond what I already know about what's happening for people. And I feel really quite excited about the possibilities for what we're going to do here, and for what that could mean to swimmers, to marathon swimmers, and to creating, an even more enhanced environment, so that when they turn up to do the job they're there to do, the rest has been taken care of and they know that they are supported.
Patricia gives us information on when to access the Talk About It service.
What we're hoping to do here is kind of create a space where you can use your sessions either before or after your swim window to explore anything. So if we think about the before, for example, there are many things that a swimmer will be working through, probably with a coach or with a team that they've gathered around them. But in the midst of all of this, none of us exist in isolation or in the context of purely, for example, a swim. We have lives, we have people we care about, we have relationships, we have jobs, we have a million other things that are happening in our lives. And the effect of having to invest so much time and energy and finances and all of the other things that go with taking on something as challenging as this, are that it places demands beyond just the swim and beyond the training. So there are lots of demands placed on relationships, or maybe in negotiating how you move through the rest of your life while you engage with this. And I thought, that for swimmers, it's worth knowing that, let's say you've come up against some sort of an issue in relationship. Because the truth is, you're asking all of the people around you to take or to buy into this adventure as well. but that can get sticky. All of our lives and relationships can sometimes get sticky. And you might have an opportunity here to tease out what's going on, to look at what can I do within the resources that I have within me to try to make that part of this easier. And that's what we could do in this space. I guess that's by way of example. There are a million other things that can come up. The obvious being, for example, fears around what's going to happen when I'm in the water. Maybe somebody has a particular fear of the dark. Maybe somebody else, their fear is jellyfish. So we can look at strategies to help you overcome that, so that when your moment comes and you're climbing into the water, there's less getting in your way. So I suppose that's what I was thinking about pre-swimming, about broadening out this notion of, counselling, coaching, and what that means. Because in truth, whether the issue is something that you are really struggling with, or a niggle, as I've said in advance of it, this is about offering the opportunity to look at any of that in a totally safe, supportive and professional space.
We explore the topic of pushing past the fear or the pain and gaining success.
When someone hits that point, hits the wall that, we've all talked about, where they're really struggling, and there's a question, at least for them, about whether they'll be able to stay. And then the question is, as we were saying, what is it that allows you to stay? Where do you find something within yourself that can get past the pain, the exhaustion, the wall that you've hit? And one of the things that we've talked about before is the idea of visualization. And I think sometimes it's easy to underestimate the power of visualization as an actual very practical tool in terms of asking yourself to go beyond what you might normally do. And I suppose to bring it back to kind of a very basic notion, when we picture something in our minds, and when you get the technique of really picturing something very, very clearly, as though you are there, the trick that's kind of played on your body is your body doesn't know that your mind is just creating a memory or an image of something. Your body is going to respond as though it's in the space that you've created in your mind's eye. So if, for example, you can clearly create, whilst you're out in the middle of the North Channel in freezing cold water, wondering how you're going to put another arm in front of the other, and you can create a really warm image in your mind, your body can start to respond to the image in your mind, which is literally affecting the physicality of your body. So taking the opportunity to work with visualization techniques and to access the image that will support you when things are hard, and to end up finding ways so that that visualization becomes so embedded in your psyche, in your unconscious, that it's almost automatically accessed at the point of struggle, can be an enormous resource for you when things get hard. Does that explain what I think we could do with the notion of visualization and how you could use that strategy and be supported here to develop what's going to work for you?
And when all is said and done and the event is over, emotions run high regardless of a success or not.
What's been reported back from many swimmers is the difficulty afterwards. Both after a successful swim or after a swim that has not gone well. But if we think about, first of all, after a successful swim, you know, you can imagine that this may have been a year, several years in the planning and in the training and the getting ready for this really phenomenal challenge in an individual's life. And both they and all of the people around them in their lives have been heavily invested in this event that they're participating in. And then you get it. It's been this huge, huge thing in your world. But the rest of the world has been getting on without that. And now you have to get back into it, into your life, into your work. And it's not inevitable, but there's a strong risk of a real crash, because all, you know, even from an ego point of view, all of the attention was on you, rightly. And now everybody's moving on. But you're kind of left with this space that's no longer filled with the plans, with the strategies, with the training, with the getting ready, with all of that attention. What are we doing now? Where do we go? So, you know, people have different ways of dealing with that. So for some people it's, well, what next? Where's my next big goal? And for others, this was it. This was the one big adventure they wanted to be a part of. So it can be really, really challenging for any person after an event like that to find a way to integrate back into their lives and their families and stay well, stay motivated, stay engaged and content with this life that now exists outside of all of that fuss, hype, work. And I think, you know, that is when it can be really useful to sit down with someone and look at what's happening here. Why am I feeling so low when I had this amazing thing and I did so well? Why am I feeling this awful? And we can look at that. And also to remind, I guess, to work with people to help them remember how significant they are outside of the swim itself, just as human beings. You know, for some people, it's your fight with the water. For other people, it's your dance with the water, your joy with the water. What are the differences? How does that affect the swim? The person you answer to is yourself.